The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It with your host, B.J. Williams.
We have a great show for you today, including a talk with Byron von Rosenberg about I Don't Want to Kiss a Llama. But first, Joyce Macaulay Johnson wants to tell you about a book you can check out at your library. Joyce, you brought a great book today. It's called The $1 Million Divorce. Now that sounds kind of intriguing.
It is. Nate, one of the main characters in the book, decides he wants to get married, and he meets Monica. And Nate is a multimillionaire. He has money. And so Monica signs a prenuptial agreement stating that she would have babies for Nate, because Nate wants to have children. Well, she puts Nate off for about 3 years, and then finds out she can't have babies.
Oh dear. I can see a conflict coming up here.
So Nate, there is a clause in the agreement that she can't have an affair with someone else. And so Nate plots, and he hires this guy to have an affair with Monica so that he doesn't have to give her any money if they divorce.
You know, men are kind of like that. Have you noticed they're just a little bit skunky sometimes?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, now, does this have a happy ending?
It does. Monica actually ends up with the guy that Nate hires, and they get their divorce, and the lady that Nate was having an affair with came to Monica and gave her a tape. So Monica is ending up with a fourth of Nate's money.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that sounds good to me. I mean, somebody needs to pay for a little bit, but it sounds like there are a lot of hijinks going on in this.
Yeah.
Now, R.M. Johnson, has he written other books?
Yes, he wrote,
well, there.
He's got 4 or 5 other books. I can't remember exactly what the titles are. Father Found, The Harris Men.
And actually, I think you've come on and talked about some of these others.
Yes,
so
I have.
This must be a reliable person. When you see an R.M. Johnson book, then you know you're going to have good entertainment.
Yeah, He's one of the men writers that I enjoy reading.
Well, it's kind of interesting to see. Usually, I guess I think of male authors as writing adventure and daring do and spies and suspense, but it's a little interesting to see a man writing about relationships. Now, Joyce, come on.
That's mostly what he writes about, is relationships. Whether it's brother or parents.
Anything to do with the family sort of thing.
Yeah, more of a family.
So at least you get the male take on all of this.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Joyce, very much.
Thank you.
We've had Joyce Macaulay Johnson on. She's been telling us about The $1 Million Divorce by R.M. Johnson. You can find it at your library and your favorite bookstore.
I know it is wet, and the sun is not sunny.
Hi, my name is Jose Jimenez of your Metropolitan Library Commission. You know, most experts tell us that if you just spend 20 minutes a day reading to your child, you're not only building a bond that lasts a lifetime, but you're also preparing that child to learn how to read. Check with the experts at your Metropolitan Library for suggestions on just the right books for you and your family. And visit us at our website at www.metrolibrary.org.
Well, Doug Benton is with me, and I guess this means it's time for me to astound him with the depth of my reading.
Okay, I'll sit here. I'll pay attention.
Okay. Actually, this is really an intriguing book. It's called Empires of the Word, A Language History of the World. Okay, it's brand new.
You need to explain it,
I need
think.
to explain that. Well, first off, it's written by an English gentleman by the name of Nicholas Ostler. He speaks, I don't know how many languages. He has first-class honors in classics at Oxford and a doctorate in linguistics and Sanskrit at MIT. He's taught in Japan, so he's gotten around. What he is trying to do is to suggest that there's a way to study language that has to do more with the history of the ideas of language as opposed to how did one word mean one thing in the 15th century and something else in the 21st.
Yeah.
And he raises some very intriguing questions, which you'll have to read the book to find answered. One of them is why, after speaking Coptic for 3,000 years, being conquered by the Greeks and the Persians, and it not affecting their language, how come when the Arabs stormed through and conquered Egypt, within 100 years everybody was speaking Arabic? Why did Catholic missionaries in the New World really enhance the native peoples hanging on to their languages when it was Protestant missionaries in the Far East that enhanced everybody learning English?
Yeah.
I mean, these are intriguing questions. He talks about what language is, how it defines a community. He has some words of caution about assuming that English will always be the and lingua franca, and even there you're saying other languages have been that because lingua franca means the French language,
Right.
which used to be, and before that it was Latin.
And it still is as far as the French are concerned.
Right, right. But Akkadian used to be the lingua franca of the civilized area. So it's an intriguing look at history, also of language. It is written in a way that you don't need a background in linguistics to understand it. If he uses technical terms, he does explain it. He's actually a pretty good writer, very entertaining. If you're intrigued about how people relate to each other, then I would recommend Empires of the Word. You can find it at your library.
Okay.
And coming up next, we have community reads with one of our teens. We have teen volunteers help us out every year with summer reading, and we corral some of them and ask them what they've been reading. And Katie Carlaw is going to be telling Heidi Port about one of her favorite books.
So Katie, can you tell me what the setting of this book is?
Yes, it actually starts in France. And it's during World War II, and the main character is a French girl who is 13, and in her town, the war hasn't come there yet, but right into the very beginning of the book, the war comes to her little town and takes over, so.
And what happens that changes her life when the war comes to town? What kinds of things?
Well, the Nazis take over her house, so she has to completely leave. They take all of their valuables. They pretty much get the clothes on their back and anything that they can carry with them. So they lose most of what they have, and then they move to another house very close to a cemetery. And it's rather creepy because they have their house right next to the cemetery, and then they have the Nazis obviously patrolling all the streets and always having to be careful what they say and what they do, making sure they don't make them upset or anything.
Wow. So she's continuing to go to school. And
She's continuing going to school. She's continuing as much as she can with all of her activities that she did before the war came to where she lived.
So what part did Suzanne play in the war?
Well, she was asked by her doctor to be a spy for the French.
Really?
Yes. And she was given the number 22 because there were 22 spies. And she then starts giving coded messages, which she can't translate herself for her protection. But she gives coded messages to the other spies, and they get it on to the people who need it.
Now, if she's in school, how does she have the time to do, how does she
A lot of the
spy work?
studies, I think, are on her own. There's a lot of free time because the fact that the Nazis say you can only do this, this, and this. You know, they tell you what you can do and what you can't do.
And wasn't she a singer?
Yes, she's an opera singer, so she's in productions and getting parts that people who are much older than her are trying to get because she's only 13, and she's beating out people in their 20s who've had years of training.
And so she got to travel to other towns and things, and that was probably...
Yeah, she stayed locally most of the time, but her one dream was to go to Paris and sing, and she did get to go to Paris and sing in Paris.
Wow, how neat. Well, sounds like a fascinating book. Who would you recommend reading this book?
I think mostly girls would enjoy this one more since the fact that she's an opera singer. I think you probably need to be at least over 10 to read it, though, because of the fact of the wars going on and some of the stuff, little girls shouldn't be reading. So.
A little bit graphic.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for bringing this book to us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Katie and Heidi. And Doug and I are back, and this time Doug is going to astound me with his reading.
Well, I don't know that you'll be astounded by this book, although it was very entertaining. The book is called Crossbones, and it's the latest by mystery writer Kathy Reichs. The reason I picked this up is because her character in here, Temperance Brennan, is a forensic anthropologist, but her adventures in the series of books have been made into a television series that's on right now that I find kind of entertaining, and I enjoy watching it. The series is called Bones, and so if you have watched it and you're interested in it, you might want to pick these up. Temperance Brennan, as I say, is a forensic anthropologist. She's called in on cases where there are bones, and she determines, the sex, the age, the national origin, if she can, of these bodies. And in this particular story, the skeleton that she's involved in is several thousand years old.
Oops.
And there is some belief that it may have come from Masada, the fortress in the Middle East where, the Jewish army held off the Romans for a length of time, and then everybody committed suicide when they realized that they were going to be overrun. And the problem with the body, with these bones, if they did come from Masada, is that it's somebody who shouldn't have been there. And so we're all wondering how this person got there. And there's a little Da Vinci Code hoo-ha in here that the bones may belong to someone from the lineage of Jesus, if he had gotten married and had a family. So there's all that kind of thing going on in here too.
I take it that doesn't get in the way of a ripping good story.
Actually, it's a very fast read, but in a way it almost does get in the way, because I think the book is overly complex. There are a lot of red herrings in here, and it seems like when things start to slow down, somebody finds another skeleton hidden away in the back of a cave somewhere that Temperance has to get involved with. So in that regard, it's almost overwritten. But the characters are fun. The banter and the dialogue between Dr. Brennan and her investigator boyfriend is very good. It's almost a romantic comedy, screwball comedy talk at some points. So that's a lot of fun with it. The one thing that I found, I think, the most annoying in the book is a habit Reichs has of leading you into the next chapter. Like this. This is the end of one chapter. Lerner was working at the museum when the Masada skeleton was there as a part-timer while researching his doctoral thesis. Are you ready for this? Cut the drama, Jake. This'll grab you by the throat. It did. And that's the end of the chapter. So you have to go on to the next chapter to find out what he's talking about, and it becomes a formula for Reichs because every other chapter ends that same way. So after a while, I stopped thinking, okay, what is it? And started thinking, oh, she's pulling me. She's messing with me again. Yeah. But overall, Crossbones is a lot of fun. There are some differences with the television series, but really not a whole lot. I think if you like one, you'll enjoy the other.
Okay, great. Thanks, Doug. Coming up next, we have Kids Corner. Rosemary Zarsky, and we'll be talking with Kelly Rhea about some books for our young adults.
Hello, we're here today with Rosemary Zarsky. She's from the Choctaw Library. She's the manager there. However, she loves children's books, and she's been the YA coordinator and the adult coordinator and almost all the coordinators. So I'm glad that you brought For Freedom today. It's by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. Tell me something about why you like this book.
Well, I've always been a World War II haunter of books. I find it a very intriguing time of history. And this is a story of a very young girl who wanted to be an opera singer. And she got into the resistance movements because she saw what was going on. She lost friends in bombings that had nothing to do with the military.
And so that's why she thought, oh my, there's more going on here.
She saw the only black family in town disappear and said, oh, I guess Hitler hates Jews and blacks.
So this takes place actually in 1940?
It takes
Around 1940?
around that, but it's actually getting, it's about when Cherbourg was bombed for the first time. It's where it opens, and then it goes on. And she's not really used a lot until the invasion. And then all of the spies are being used a lot, and of course they're being caught one by one.
Now, I read actually I read some reviews, and the description sounded like this was a true story.
It is definitely based on a true story. The author's husband said, you've got to hear the mother's story of one of the people he worked with. And so she went and listened, and this is what came from it.
So it's taken from, but it's fictionalized a
It
bit.
is a fictional, it's listed as fiction, but it's based on a true story.
And it says it's the youngest, talks about the youngest spy, the youngest female
14.
spy. So this is a really good book for teenagers, girls and boys, because of the vital part that this character plays in the story.
Right, and the boys will find it interesting to understand what her brothers are going through. One of them can't ever fight, and the other's too young. So it has that point of interest in it too.
Sounds like a great story. I wish that I had read it so that I could visit with you a little more completely on it. It's by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. It's called For Freedom, the Story of a French Spy. And we know that you'll really enjoy this book at your favorite library or at your local bookstore. Thanks.
Byron von Rosenberg is a native Texan now living in Missouri who writes and illustrates books for children. I was able to talk with him at the Centennial Book Festival last May at Oklahoma City University. They're having another festival coming up on May 22nd. You need to drop by and meet some of the authors there. But in the meantime, listen to what Byron von Rosenberg says about not wanting to kiss a llama. Why do you write poetry?
Well, I started writing poetry a little less than 3 years ago. I needed to write a poem for my dad who had Lou Gehrig's disease, and I wanted a very special way to tell him how special he had been to us, all that he had meant to us. And I wrote a poem called Look at My Hands, which I read to him on the last day of his life, and it touched a lot of people, myself and others included. And that was just a very special gift, you know, something I prayed for and just was blessed to get, and wanted to keep passing that on to other people. And so then I started writing sort of whatever came to mind, not just goodbye poems, which is what I had started out with, but started doing some funny ones, some humorous ones, and some patriotic poems, and just sort of wherever it seemed to go, I just would write.
Now, I noticed that a lot of these are poems that I think children, you can easily read to children, right, because they will understand it. There's a lot of great poetry that the kids are going to be saying, what does that mean? What does that mean? And what you have here is something that you can read, they can enjoy it, I think develop a real appreciation for poetry from that. Did you deliberately set out to write things for kids?
I don't think so. You know, I'm thinking back as you were asking the question, and I, not initially, no. Just, you know, when I am going places, or when I'm, say, jogging, or when I'm dreaming sometimes, a phrase or a thought or a sight will come into my head, and I'll think of a title. And then I'll just decide if it's really good, I'll say, well, I got to write a poem about that title, or with that title. And then I'll tie this, you know, whatever I've seen, I'll tie into the words and into the rhymes. It's just, it's like I said, it's a gift. But as far as specifically writing for children, I think I do now. You know, I'll enjoy a title and I'll think of it. But the ones for children also are so good for adults too. Like I Don't Want to Kiss a Llama. Everybody identifies it because of the bright colors and the llama and the little boy on the cover, that it's a children's book. But it's really more than that. It's really a very profound little love poem. That seems silly to say, and maybe I'm the only one that will say it's profound. I don't want to kiss a llama, profound, but it is.
Well, I think when I first got the book and looked at it, I thought, I don't want to kiss a llama. I was expecting something else at the end, I think, than what I got to, which is, as you said, it's a love poem. It's about grandparents expressing how much they love their kids. And I think I was really expecting something that would explain, llamas spit and giraffes are too tall and have rough tongues and all that, more of a zoology book. So it was a little bit of a twist right there at the end.
It was a twist, and I had just talked to some folks in a bookstore yesterday, and they were telling me the same thing. They were saying we were trying to figure out what the ending was, and we were very surprised by it.
Well, you've got a book of poetry right in front of you, and I think it's written by a Byron von Rosenberg.
That's me. I'd like to read one called Walter Wupperman's Wings. Walter Wupperman, this is actually, didn't take a lot of imagination. This is actually a story from my father's childhood. And this was actually one of his cousins. They gathered along Texas Street from top to bottom of the hill, and as Walter stepped out from the walk, the crowd was hushed and still. He was tall and skinny for his age, with arms especially long. He had flapped his wings for weeks to try to make them strong. The bruises were still visible from his last aborted goof, but his cardboard wings had patted him when he jumped off of the roof. His wingspan was impressive as he turned into the wind, and the crowd all held its breath as he started to descend. Walter took those giant strides and flapped with all his might. If trying could have given lift, he would have taken flight. When Walter reached the bottom, his arms were tired and sore, and his mother seemed relieved when he said, "I'll try no more." But everyone who watched him has remembered to this day the time that Walter Wupperman tried to fly away.
Now, I Don't Want to Kiss a Llama didn't start out as a picture book.
No, it did not. I Don't Want to Kiss a Llama started out, I had written some other llama poems that are in the Don't Feed the Seagull books. That started out kind of because we had gone to a exotic animal park, there in Missouri. The llamas were really cute. They blocked our car while the other one ate, and they were very smart and very cute and very intriguing. So when I started writing poetry, I tried to write some llama poems, and I wrote a few. My wife bought me a stuffed toy llama, and I held it up to my daughter, and I said, "Erin, kiss the llama." And she said, "I don't want to kiss a llama." So that was the birth of the poem.
And then later you said, this would be a great picture book.
Yeah, poetry is wonderful to write. It doesn't sell all that quickly, although we've done very well with our poetry books. The people at the bookstores kind of directed us to, you should take some of these, as you asked, take some of these and make them children's books. And the very first one that we thought of was I Don't Want to Kiss a Llama.
Now, one of the things I find intriguing about this book is that you're the illustrator as well as the writer.
Well, part of that is because I was a Boy Scout, and a Scout is thrifty. And I know, we have two children, and I know what everybody's budget is. I wanted to keep the price of the book under $10. And I found out how much it would cost to get a professional, a real illustrator, somebody who could really draw. And so I decided to try it myself at first. And I drew the pictures, and we shared them with people at book signings, that we did not know. We didn't tell them that I did the pictures or anything, and they would often ask, who did the pictures? I love them, and stuff like that. So we had enough of that go on, fairly honest opinions from people, that we decided to go with it. And the book has done well. We're sold down to like 500 of the first 3,000 that we got in less than 9 months. And,
Well, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good for a little one-two-man operation.
Now, you are going to be doing some more of those, aren't you?
Thinking Upside Down is my next one, and Thinking Upside Down is going to be actually a full-length book. It's going to be about 160 pages of poems, fables, and sketches. It includes Thinking Upside Down, which is, again, a poem in Climb the Red Mountain, and several other poems, a lot of poems that have been written just in the last few months.
Now, you don't sit down and say, I need to fill up a book, so I better write a poem a day, do you?
No, my wife tells me that.
Oh, okay. Well, good for her.
I write a poem a day anyway, at least one, just because it's enjoyable. You asked me about, sitting down to write. It's a time of the day that I look forward to. If I haven't had a chance to write in the morning, I'll find a time to go to the park and during lunch hour or something and just sit down and write. And it takes me completely out of everything else that's going on in the world and lets me be in my own little world and, basically just sit there and, listen to the creator of the universe and maybe write something that'll touch somebody's heart.
Well, I think you've done that, and I want to thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Morris, Executive Director of your Metropolitan Library System. Experts tell us it's never too early to begin reading to a child. If you spend just 20 minutes a day reading to a child, you're not only building a bond that lasts a lifetime, but you're helping that child to prepare to learn how to read. Visit us at the Metropolitan Library System and let us help you select just the right books for you and your family. And be sure and visit our website at www.metrolibrary.org.
Well, Doug and I are back, and it's Writer's Almanac time, and I'm betting that Doug has a date for us.
I do. February 28th, 1893, was the birthday of a writer who was at one time very famous in this country and isn't so much anymore. His name was Ben Hecht. I know, you're kind of nodding like, okay. He was a playwright, he was a short story writer and a novelist, but mostly he was known for working in Hollywood. He was known as the Shakespeare of Hollywood. And film critic Pauline Kael once said that about 50% of every entertaining movie that ever came out of Hollywood was written by Ben Hecht. But he was also the co-author of the play The Front Page, which is the great newspaper play that has been filmed several times under that title, and as His Girl Friday by Howard Hawks in the 1940s. But Hecht not only wrote a lot of great screenplays, notorious for Alfred Hitchcock is my favorite, but he was a doctor, a script doctor, and he worked on scripts for other people, including Gone with the Wind. He did a lot of work on the script of Gone with the Wind, but didn't receive any credit for it. But anyway, February 28th is the birthday of Ben Hecht, who died in, I think, 1964.
Wow. Well, February the 26th in 1848 was when Marx and Engels published the Communist Manifesto. In 1891, Hedda Gabler by Ibsen premiered in Oslo. And February 27th, 1807, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, another American writer not well known today, was born. Also in 1872, on February 27th, Charlotte Ray was the first black female lawyer and she graduated from Harvard.
Oh, congratulations to her.
Yeah, that must have been a long, hard road for her. So you can find out about these and many more exciting and interesting facts at your library, www.metrolibrary.org. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again next time.